Have you ever wondered why some men choose to live alone without a girlfriend and actually thrive? Society tells us that being single is a problem to be solved, that happiness comes from being in a relationship. But what if that's not true? What if living alone could be a path to strength, wisdom, and real fulfillment? Today we're diving into the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, to uncover 10 powerful insights on self-sufficiency, independence, and finding peace as a man living alone. But before we begin, if you're interested in Stoic philosophy and self-mastery, subscribe to the channel and like this video, because this knowledge might just change your perspective on love, solitude, and life itself. And be sure to watch until the end, because these lessons could reshape your entire approach to relationships and personal growth. 1. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Have you ever been in love? That kind of love where you felt like the world revolved around one person? Maybe you stayed up late texting, felt your heart race when they called, and built entire dreams around them, and then one day it ended. Maybe it was sudden, maybe it was slow, like a candle burning out. But in that moment you felt powerless. You kept replaying old conversations in your mind, wondering what you could have done differently. You checked their social media, hoping for a sign that they missed you too. You felt lost, as if a part of you had been taken away. Sound familiar? Now let me tell you about James. James had been in a long-term relationship, the kind where he thought marriage was just around the corner. He had built his life around her, her happiness, her needs, her plans. He thought that's what love was, giving yourself completely to someone else. But then one day she left. No huge fight, no dramatic goodbye, just a simple realization on her part that she wanted something different. James was devastated. He spent months drowning in heartbreak, feeling like his world had ended. But then something changed. One night he picked up a book by Marcus Aurelius, and he read a simple yet life-altering truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's when it hit him. He had been living his life on someone else's terms. He had given his happiness away, placed it in someone else's hands. And when she left, it felt like she took his peace with her. But the truth was, his peace had never belonged to her. It was his all along. If you've ever felt like James, I want you to ask yourself something right now. Who really controls your happiness? Is it your ex? Is it the person who ghosted you? Or is it you? Men who live alone and thrive understand this deeply. They know that the mind is the only thing they truly control. They don't depend on a girlfriend to make them feel complete. Instead, they cultivate their own happiness, their own strength. And that, my friend, is true freedom. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change the way you see love forever. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you needed them to be happy? Where your days felt brighter just because they were there? And the idea of losing them scared you more than anything? And then maybe it happened. Maybe they left. Maybe it wasn't even your fault. But suddenly your world felt empty. The places you used to go together didn't feel the same. The music you both loved now just reminded you of them. Even the little things, like a certain scent or a favorite restaurant, became painful reminders of what you lost. Now let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel was once in love, deeply. The kind of love where you don't just share moments, you build a life together. He thought he had everything, but when his relationship ended, it felt like he had nothing. He spiraled into loneliness, thinking that without her, his happiness was gone. But then something changed. One day, while sitting alone at a cafe they used to visit, he overheard an old man giving advice to a younger guy who had just been dumped. The old man said something simple yet profound. If you need someone else to be happy, you're not really happy. You're just distracted. That hit Daniel like a lightning bolt. He realized he had been outsourcing his happiness, placing it in someone else's hands instead of his own. He wasn't actually unhappy without her. He had just never learned to be happy with himself. And this is exactly what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Happiness isn't about how many people are in your life. It's not about whether you have a girlfriend, a wife, or a romantic partner at all. It's about how you see the world and yourself. Men who live alone and thrive understand this truth. They don't chase relationships out of fear of loneliness. They don't depend on someone else to give their life meaning. Instead, they find joy in their own company. in their passions, in the small moments of life that most people overlook. Now let me ask you, what if happiness was never about someone else? What if it was always about you? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change everything you believe about love and solitude. 3. Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. Have you ever been in love so deeply that even the smallest moments felt magical? A simple walk in the park, holding hands in the cold? Or watching the stars together, those moments felt like they meant everything. And then maybe it ended, and suddenly the world didn't feel as beautiful anymore. The same sky that once felt infinite now just reminded you of who you used to watch it with. The places that once felt special now just felt empty. Does that sound familiar? Now let me tell you about Michael. Michael had been through heartbreak before. He knew what it was like to feel like something was missing. One evening after a long day at work, he found himself standing on his apartment balcony, staring up at the night sky. He hadn't looked at the stars in years. Not really. And for the first time in a long time, he realized something. The stars were still there. The world hadn't changed just because his relationship had ended. The beauty, the wonder, the magic, it was all still there. He had just stopped noticing it. That's when he remembered a quote he had once read from Marcus Aurelius. Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. At that moment, something clicked. Michael realized that life hadn't lost its beauty. He had just been too focused on his past to see it. He had spent so much time looking backward, replaying old memories that he had forgotten to look around him. And this is where so many men get stuck after a breakup. They believe that the beauty in their life came from someone else, from shared experiences, from love, from a relationship. But the truth is, beauty is everywhere. You just have to see it again. Men who live alone and thrive understand this truth. They find joy in life itself, in simple moments: a sunrise, a great book, a deep conversation, a walk under the stars. They don't wait for someone else to make life beautiful. They choose to see the beauty that was always there. So let me ask you, when was the last time you looked at the stars? Not to wish on them, not to remember the past, but just to admire them for what they are. Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change the way you see your own happiness. 4. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Have you ever felt stuck in a relationship not because you were truly happy, but because you were afraid of what life would be like without it? Maybe you knew deep down that things weren't working, that something was missing, but the thought of being alone scared you more than staying in a love that wasn't right. If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. Now let me tell you about Ryan. Ryan had been with his girlfriend for almost 5 years. At first, everything was perfect. They laughed, traveled, and built a life together. But over time, something changed. The excitement faded. The connection wasn't the same. Conversations turned into arguments. Silence became more common than laughter. But despite all of this, Ryan stayed. Not because he was happy, but because he was afraid. Afraid of starting over. Afraid of being alone. Afraid that if he left, he might never find love again. Then one night he stumbled upon a quote from Marcus Aurelius. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. And it hit him like a punch to the gut. For years, Ryan had been living in fear. Fear of change. Fear of loneliness. Fear of the unknown. But what he realized in that moment was that the real tragedy wasn't being alone. The real tragedy was wasting years of his life in a relationship that no longer brought him joy, just because he was too afraid to move forward. And this is the truth that many men struggle to face. Are you truly living? Or are you just avoiding the fear of being alone? Men who choose to live alone and thrive understand this deeply. They don't stay in situations that don't serve them just because they're afraid of what's next. They embrace solitude not as something to fear, but as an opportunity to truly start living on their own terms. So let me ask you, are you living? Or are you just afraid of letting go? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just shift your entire perspective on love, freedom, and what it really means to be happy. 5. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Have you ever gone through a breakup where, no matter what you did, you couldn't stop thinking about them? You'd wake up and they'd be the first thing on your mind. You'd go to work, try to focus, but somehow memories of them kept slipping in. Maybe you even caught yourself rereading old texts, looking at old pictures, replaying conversations, wondering what if. If you've ever been there, then you know exactly how damaging your own mind can be. Now let me tell you about Alex. Alex had just gone through a painful breakup. The kind that leaves you feeling like someone ripped a part of your soul away. His friends told him to move on, to distract himself, to get back out there. But no matter what he did, he couldn't shake the sadness. He was trapped in his own thoughts. One night as he was lying awake in bed, overthinking for the 100th time, he came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius. "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." At first, he brushed it off. How could thoughts change anything? But the more he reflected, the more he realized something. His pain wasn't coming from the breakup itself. It was coming from the way he was thinking about it. Every time he thought, "I'll never find love like that again," he was making himself suffer. Every time he thought, "She was the best thing that ever happened to me," he was reinforcing his own sadness. Every time he thought, "I am incomplete without her," he was literally choosing misery. And then it hit him: if his thoughts had the power to make him feel miserable, then his thoughts also had the power to set him free. That was the turning point. Alex started reframing his thoughts. Instead of "I lost her," he told himself, "I gained clarity about what I truly want in a partner." Instead of "I'm alone now," he told himself, "I have the freedom to build the life I want." Instead of "I'll never find love again," he reminded himself every ending is a new beginning. Men who live alone and thrive master their thoughts. They don't let their minds become prisons. They understand that happiness isn't about external circumstances, it's about the way you interpret them. So let me ask you, are your thoughts making you stronger? Or are they keeping you trapped in the past? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change the way you see yourself forever. 6. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Have you ever tried to prove your worth to someone? Maybe you changed the way you dressed, the way you spoke, or even the things you believed in just to impress someone you loved. Maybe you told yourself, "If I can just be better, if I can just show them how much I care, they'll stay." And yet, despite all of that, they still left. If that's ever happened to you, you're not alone. Now let me tell you about Ethan. Ethan was in a relationship where he constantly felt like he wasn't good enough. He was always trying to be the man she wanted, more confident, more successful, more exciting. He worked harder, made more money, even changed the way he acted around her friends just to make her happy. But no matter how much he tried, it was never enough. She still seemed distant. And then one day she ended things. She told him, "It's not you, I just need to find myself." Ethan was crushed. He had given everything, and in the end, it still wasn't enough. For months, he replayed everything in his mind. Was I too boring? Not attractive enough? Not successful enough? He read self-improvement books, watched endless videos on how to be more alpha, and tried to become the kind of man women couldn't leave. But one night, he came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius. "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." And suddenly he saw the truth. He had spent so much time chasing validation, trying to prove his worth to someone else, that he had never actually asked himself, "What kind of man do I want to be?" That night, Ethan made a decision. He stopped living for someone else's approval. He stopped trying to be good enough for a relationship and focused on being good enough for himself. And something incredible happened. He became the man he was meant to be, confident, independent, not because he was trying to impress anyone, but because he had finally realized his worth wasn't something that needed to be proven. Men who live alone and thrive understand this deeply. They don't chase love, they don't beg for attention, and they don't waste time trying to prove themselves. Instead, they focus on becoming the best version of themselves. And ironically, that's what makes them truly magnetic. So let me ask you, are you living for someone else's approval? Or are you living for yourself? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just shift the way you see love and self-worth forever. 7. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Have you ever been hurt by someone you loved? Maybe they betrayed you, lied to you, or walked away when you needed them the most, and in the aftermath you couldn't stop thinking about it. The pain, the anger, the overwhelming desire to make them regret what they did. If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. Now let me tell you about Jake. Jake was deeply in love. He had been with his girlfriend for 3 years, and he truly believed she was the one. He was loyal, supportive, and gave her everything. But then, out of nowhere, he found out she had been seeing someone else. The betrayal destroyed him. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't focus at work. And worst of all, he was consumed by one thought. How could she do this to me? At first, Jake wanted revenge. He wanted her to feel the same pain he was feeling. He thought about exposing her lies, making her jealous, or moving on quickly just to prove he could. But none of it made him feel any better. Then one night, while scrolling through old messages, he came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius. "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And suddenly something clicked. All this time, he had been focusing on her actions, when what really mattered was his own. Did he want to become bitter? Did he want to waste his energy trying to get even? Or did he want to rise above it and become stronger because of it? That night, Jake made a decision. He would not let this experience define him. Instead of chasing revenge, he chased self-improvement. He hit the gym, focused on his career, and worked on becoming the best version of himself. Not to prove anything to her, but to prove to himself that he could turn pain into power. Men who live alone and thrive understand this deeply. They don't waste energy on bitterness. They don't let heartbreak turn them into someone they're not. Instead, they use every setback as an opportunity to grow. So let me ask you, are you holding on to the pain, or are you using it to become stronger? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change the way you see heartbreak and healing forever. 8. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Have you ever felt like your happiness was completely controlled by someone else? Maybe you were in love and everything felt perfect until one day they left, and suddenly your world came crashing down. You couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't stop thinking about them. Have you ever felt like that? Now, let me tell you about David. David had been with his girlfriend for nearly 4 years. She was his best friend, his biggest support, the person he imagined spending his future with. But then one evening, completely out of nowhere, she told him, "I just don't feel the same anymore." And just like that, she was gone. David was shattered. He spent weeks replaying every conversation, every moment trying to figure out what he did wrong. He became obsessed with the one thing he could not control: her decision. One night, after another evening of drowning in his own thoughts, he came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He read it again, and then, for the first time in weeks, he realized something. He had no control over whether she stayed or left, but he had complete control over how he responded to it. That was the turning point. David stopped chasing closure. He stopped looking for answers he would never get. Instead, he asked himself, what can I control? He could control his mindset. He could control his habits. He could control his future. And so he got to work. He started working out. He picked up new hobbies. He reconnected with old friends. Not because he was trying to prove anything to her, but because he refused to let someone else's decision dictate his life. Men who live alone and thrive understand this deeply. They don't let heartbreak define them. They don't waste time trying to change things beyond their control. Instead, they master their own minds, and that is where true strength comes from. So let me ask you, are you focusing on what you can control? Or are you still trapped in the past, wishing things were different? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change the way you see yourself forever. 9. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Have you ever been completely broken by a breakup? The kind where you feel like a part of you is missing, like you'll never be happy again? Maybe you check your phone hoping they'll text. Maybe you see them moving on and it feels like a knife to your heart. Why does it hurt so much? Is it because they left? Or is it because of the way you're thinking about it? Let me tell you about Chris. Chris had been madly in love. He thought he had found the one. But one day she sat him down and told him, "I don't feel the same way anymore." And just like that, she was gone. Chris was crushed. He couldn't focus, couldn't sleep. Every time he thought about her, he felt pain, like a weight pressing down on his chest. But one night, while scrolling through an old journal, he came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius. "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." He read it again, and suddenly, it hit him. The pain wasn't coming from the breakup itself. It was coming from the way he was interpreting it. He had been telling himself, she was my happiness. She was my future. Without her, I am lost. But was any of that really true? Or was it just his mind convincing him that he had lost something he couldn't live without? That was the moment Chris decided to take control. Instead of thinking, she was my happiness, he told himself, I create my own happiness. Instead of thinking, I've lost everything, he told himself, this is a new beginning. And little by little, he started to heal. Men who live alone and thrive understand this deeply. They know that pain is not just about what happens to them, it's about the story they tell themselves. And once they change that story, they take their power back. So let me ask you, is your pain real? Or is it just the way you're choosing to see things? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change the way you see pain and healing forever. 10. Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly appreciated life? Not just went through the motions, not just survived another day, but actually looked around and felt grateful to be alive. If you've ever had your heart broken, you know how easy it is to stop noticing the beauty in life. The world starts to feel dull. Music doesn't sound the same. The places that once made you happy now feel empty. It's like life has lost its color. Have you ever felt like that? Now let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel had just gone through a tough breakup. The kind that makes you feel like the world is crashing down around you. He stopped going out, stopped laughing, stopped enjoying the things he once loved. One evening, as he sat alone in his apartment, scrolling through old photos, he came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius. Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. He didn't understand it at first. How can I dwell on the beauty of life when everything feels so painful? But something inside him told him to step outside. So he did. He walked through the quiet streets, feeling the cool air on his skin. He looked up at the sky, something he hadn't done in a long time. The stars were shining, indifferent to his heartbreak, timeless and beautiful. And in that moment, something shifted inside him. He realized that his pain, no matter how deep, was temporary, but the world around him was still full of wonder. He had just forgotten to see it. That night, Daniel made a decision. Instead of focusing on what he lost, he would focus on what was still there. Instead of dwelling on pain, he would dwell on the beauty of life. And slowly, life started to feel colorful again. He took himself on walks, read books, watched sunsets, and allowed himself to fall in love not with a person, but with life itself. Men who live alone and thrive understand this deeply. They don't let heartbreak steal their appreciation for life. They don't close themselves off from the beauty around them. Instead, they embrace it. So let me ask you, are you seeing the beauty in life, or are you letting pain blind you to it? Think about that, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share next might just change the way you experience life forever. So what's the real takeaway? Marcus Aurelius teaches us that men who live alone aren't lost. They aren't lacking anything. They are simply choosing a life of independence, self-mastery, and deep personal fulfillment. And maybe, just maybe, there's something we can all learn from that. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.